need a sign, banner, or business cards for your business, who do you call? Hi, this is Kent Adams.
And Tom MacArthur from Business Talks. Kent and I call Instant Sign Factory for our signs, banners, business cards, and more.
Dave at Instant Sign Factory is our go-to guy for printing, and he always does excellent work for us.
Check them out online. They've got an all-new website, InstantSignFactory.com.
Tell them Kent and Tom from Business Talks sent you. Instant Sign Factory.
Welcome to Let's Talk Spokane, where host Ryan McNeese seeks out and discusses the latest on a variety of hot local topics. Now, here's your host, Ryan McNeese.
Welcome to Let's Talk Spokane. I'm your host, Ryan McNeese, and I'm here in the studio with Stephen Brashears, Executive Director of Feed Spokane. Steve, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ryan.
You've been the Executive Director for 5 years.
That's correct.
And the organization has been around for 10 years. You're serving a great purpose here in Spokane in the community. Tell us about it. Tell us about the history. Tell us about pragmatically what you're doing. Give us some history about Feed Spokane.
Ryan, thanks for inviting me. Feed Spokane started 10 years ago. It was two people just like you and I having lunch. And they asked the question, what do you think happens to all the leftover food? And it just laid on the table as a question. They got together again a month or so later, and then the idea of Feed Spokane was brought into play. We are a nonprofit, a faith-based nonprofit, and it came with the idea that there's got to be a way that we can rescue good, nutritious, quality food that normally is being thrown away. And some of it is education, and some of it is just getting out and being able to talk to people and talk about how to have food integrity, how to keep the food safe. So we do lessons,
talk more
training.
about that. I mean, are you talking about in the restaurant, for instance, that leftover food?
Yeah, I'll give you an example that if you have owned a restaurant,
Right.
I could come to you. We supply the pans and lids. They're aluminum. They're used once, and they can then go right from their food to these trays. They're put in refrigeration. To give you an example, Arby's is on our board.
Okay.
Arby's delivers about 150 pounds of food every week.
Well,
And
and
they have
Stephen,
a-
it's such a good point because I appreciate you speaking to our listeners today because I think all of us at one time or another wondered where all of this wasted food essentially goes. So I think this idea is fantastic.
Thank you. I think a lot of it went to waste. There are statistics, Ryan, that show we, as busy as we are, we rescue about 7% of the food that could be saved in Spokane. So don't think of just Arby's food or
Sure.
prepared food. Think of also sell-by dates.
Okay. So
right.
in the standard grocery store, for instance.
Standard grocery store, one of the big box stores that ask us not to use their name. We get a lot of food from them. Barney's Harvest Food. It's okay to use their name.
And they do great work, by the way.
Yeah, well, they're right in our community. And they give us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday a whole bunch of food, range from yogurt to eggs to milk to protein. And then we collect from 3 major hotels now, Northern Quest, the Davenport, Ramada, and also the Doubletree. I guess that's more than 3.
No, but that's impressive. And again, I just don't think people would realize that. And so I appreciate the opportunity to have you on the show and educate myself, for one, but our listeners as to how these organizations are helping our community.
As I get to talk to groups and stuff, Ryan, I think it's interesting to share the Good Samaritan Act. Being an attorney, you're familiar with that law.
Right.
Okay. But there's also a part of that law that states about food safety and food integrity and intent. So the intent is the food is handled safely and properly, that it then comes to Feed Spokane, and then is distributed to our coalition group, which runs 16 to 18 groups every Monday. And then they take the foods back. So we don't directly feed the public. We indirectly are feeding 8,000 people a week.
That's a good point, Stephen. Let me jump in there. Where is the original, where these participants that we've mentioned, whether it be Davenport, Ramada, Northern Quest, et cetera, where is the food delivered to? Where is that actually located in Spokane?
We have volunteers that go on a preset time that is acceptable to those sites' schedules. We pick them up.
Okay, and bring it back to Feed Spokane, the actual building.
Because then if we ever had to defend anything, we've got a system set up as far as the food integrity goes.
And a systematic approach.
Correct.
Okay, and so once it has all been systematically brought to Feed Spokane, then you mentioned coalitions. The coalitions then bring it from Feed Spokane to, and that's
correct. They come back. So I'll give you an example. Family of Faith is a church on the north side in the west central area. They are one of the 16 to 18 groups that come in. Somebody our listeners would know really well is Blessings Under the Bridge.
Absolutely. I participated with that.
Yes, you have. And they then come down. They then glean what the food they can use. They take it back to their centers, and then they use it and serve their community as they see fit. Ryan, one of the things that we've opened up is not just people that feed, but we also have food pantries. So we have a couple of groups that don't have the ability to prepare meals, so their needs are a whole lot different.
Right.
What they do is they have a food pantry, so when customers come in and they can get food, and they pick up canned food, they pick up stuff right from that direct organization.
There's no doubt about it. The idea behind this is fascinating, and the overcapacity of the food, or the food that isn't being used. This is a great way to make that productive and help in Spokane. I'd imagine with most nonprofits and organizations that have a great intent, if you looked back 10 years ago, and certainly the 5 years that you've been the executive director, from the idea of a good idea to practically putting it into place, what are some of the challenges this nonprofit organization has gone through as you've transitioned from the idea to the implementing process?
I think the one of the biggest transition difficulties for Feed Spokane has been getting people to buy into the fact that it's okay to let go of their food to feed the hungry. None of us want to see anybody go hungry, but the fear of being sued.
See, that's interesting. Obviously, my question was going to be, what is their fear? But the fear that particular food source is circled back to one of these entities. That's
exactly
what their fear is.
That's why we have somebody from the county health is on our board, and we're really, really careful about food integrity, and then also in training. Once every other month, we actually have a coalition meeting that's a luncheon in different group areas, and then we discuss these kind of things. So, and we also have site visits. We have 2 board members that go to each one of the new sites, inspect. Is your kitchen there? Do you have your county health permits? So here again, it's part of the integrity
part of that system you've spoke about to make sure there's a homogeneous system in place so that the quality of the food is there.
Yes, and then as I speak to groups, then more and more people are saying, well, I've heard of you, or how do we get involved in that? I think one of the biggest barriers has been just getting to know people, getting out and talking to Rotary, getting out and talking to Lions, getting out and talking to the different groups. And that's what I enjoy doing. It was a big transition from 35 years in mortgage banking to being in a nonprofit.
Yeah, a different animal there, isn't it?
It is, but it's also really exciting because we have a very good opportunity to serve the community in an indirect way, but our phone number is public, so I get calls.
I bet you do.
Where are your free meals? Can I get food? That part is tough for me, too.
Right.
Can I
'Cause you don't
meet
want to
you?
turn somebody down.
No. So I say, do you have access to Facebook? Most people do, whether it's the library or where they're staying. And
So let's investigate that a little bit. If they have access to Facebook or over other relevant social media sites, they can go to respective organizations that food that Feed Spokane has brought to locations. Is that the reason you're referencing them to Facebook?
Every evening, Wednesday tonight, we will publish on Facebook all of the available free meal sites in Spokane.
So that's where the outlets are, is on the respective social media sites.
Right.
What you mentioned Facebook, of course. Other social media sites that we should let our listeners know about?
We're on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I don't believe we're as active as we could be.
Okay, so Feed Spokane, can someone find you on Instagram, Twitter, potentially those sites as well?
Mostly going to be for our clients and stuff will be Facebook.
Okay.
So Feed Spokane has a website, and we do photos and things that then go out like events and fundraisers, and then the different things I usually, if I've met you and you and I are visiting about Feed Spokane, I might do a look who I ran into,
Right.
and here's a photo, and post it on our actual webpage.
Well, I think you make a really good point about your role as executive director over the years. It's education. And I think there's so many great organizations, nonprofit or otherwise, that the education piece is always the question. That it's a great organization, but do people know what you're doing? I think Feed Spokane is in that category of doing great work, but getting the word out. I appreciate you being here, Stephen. Let's take a quick break and come back and chat more about Feed Spokane.
You're listening to SpokaneTalksOnline.com, Spokane and North Idaho's business and community talk station.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org. In study after study, money is often cited as one of the top conflict points in a marriage. Finances can be an emotional topic for couples, especially when money is tight. So it pays to get in the habit of discussing it on a regular basis, even if you keep separate finances. At stcumoney.org, find 6 tips for making the conversation easier.
Here's a simple way to stay connected on the go. Join KHQ on Facebook and Twitter and be a part of the conversation. Just like KHQ Local News on Facebook or follow us on Twitter before your next stop. Experience why more people follow KHQ Local News than any other station in the Inland Northwest. Be the first to know about breaking news, weather, and all the stories creating a social media swirl. Sign up, sound off, stay connected. KHQ Local News, right now.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Spokane. I'm Ryan McNeese, and we're here in the studio with Stephen Brashears, Executive Director of Feed Spokane. Stephen, I appreciate you being here. I think right when we went to break, we were discussing the issue of education of nonprofits or otherwise, corporations, organizations that are doing great work, but that folks don't necessarily know what it is they're doing. And it's that education element that I think you spoke of as Executive Director that's important to get the word out. Has that been a big piece of your duties over the last 5 years?
It is. That's been a big part. I've been told I'm boots on the ground. I'm the face of Feed Spokane, which is scary. But it's also our past president, Tammy Kennedy, is still on our board, and she's our PR director.
Okay.
So we have, and you know our website, people.
Mm-hmm.
They are doing things to help us get to the next level that a lot of us aren't aware of how to do.
Yeah, Well Dressed Walrus does great work in a
Good
lot of
plug.
different. Yeah, they do a lot of good work in a lot of different areas. What are some of the events or opportunities that you feel like really work to get Feed Spokane out there, really educate the public?
We have 3 events a year. One coming up, I believe it's Saturday, the 11th of February, that we call a friend raiser.
Okay.
One of our board members is Tom Peterson, retired major of Salvation Army. We're going to meet there. There'll be about 100 people, and it's just educational.
Meeting at the Salvation Army?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're hosting a breakfast, and it's a free breakfast, and it will be educating those that we are inviting to come or those that want to come. And it's a fundraiser as well as a friend raiser.
Okay.
But that's an educational part.
It sounds like it. Awareness.
Yeah. And then March, probably one of the biggest things that I am now a part of is called Dine Out to Feed Spokane in March.
Okay.
And we partner with GSDA, which is the Greater Spokane Dietetic Association. And for a long time, they took care of everything. And we finally have a very engaged board, and we get out and we're pushing that. And that's where different restaurants, different people commit a day or a product or something like that. And out of that, then it becomes a fundraiser for Feed Spokane.
Well, that's one of the questions I had, Stephen, is through the friend raiser or fundraiser is you are getting the word out, obviously, and that's the goal, both from an awareness standpoint and a fundraising standpoint. How do you feel like you effectively find the food sources, whether it be the restaurants, grocery stores, et cetera? What usually is the most effective way to educate those vendors or those businesses to say that they should do this with the excess food that they have?
I don't try and guilt anybody. I will do something along the lines of you and I are having lunch. I'll hand the server or the manager my Feed Spokane business card and just drop a line. What do you do with your extra food, your sell-by date stuff? And sometimes you get a response, sometimes, well, we should talk about that. And I may use one of the, are you familiar that we have 4 major hotels in Spokane that donate?
And that you have an effective outlet
Yes.
for those products.
And
What let's be honest, what does happen to those sell-by-date products if they do not engage with a Feed Spokane?
They
what
go
happens?
into the dumpster.
Ah,
And I can apply to somebody's financial sense by saying we can save you a lot of money by not throwing that food away.
transfer costs,
Exactly.
et cetera.
So, but on the bigger scale, you're helping indirectly feed. When I go out to Arby's and I pick up food or I have lunch there, I'll share with the front desk people. I said, are you aware you're indirectly helping us feed 8,000 people a week by what you do?
Is it really numbers like that?
Yes.
8,000
And it's
people a week?
growing.
Just via Arby's or collectively?
Well, collectively,
Okay.
the Feed Spokane Coalition, like Blessings Under the
Sure.
Bridge, the different places that have the different food sites, the different breakfast time. So it's been part of what I do of getting out is going to the different coalition to a breakfast or a lunch or serving in an area so I can see what happens to the food.
How have those folks at the front desk, if you will, reacted? What has been their...
Shocked.
They probably don't know.
Yeah. It's just chicken that didn't get sold that got put in to be safe. That's where it goes.
Yeah, the
And they're-
awareness again.
So
But they're probably pretty proud to be a part of an organization.
they're
that's
extremely
participating.
proud. Yeah.
I think that goes to the corporate culture of whether it be an Arby's or otherwise, the many others that you're dealing with, that's a great piece of their corporate culture for their employees as well.
It is because it says something about them and their community.
Mm-hmm.
It says something about we believe there is a challenge that there are hungry people out
Right.
there. We have 2 pizza places that donate to us on a weekly basis. I know I can share this, Little Caesars. Every Tuesday we go to one of the Little Caesars and pick up a lot of pizza from them. And our end user, my driver, and sometimes it's me, will take it directly to House of Charities. They then have a big pizza feed on Saturday night.
But just direct. You
It's
pick
direct.
it up at one and take it to the
There's
other.
no storage, there's no lost time, there's no integrity challenge.
You know, one thing worth noting is I really enjoy the opportunity that I have to do a show like this or Business Talks because I learn something new every day. And Stephen, I've known you for a long time, and I've appreciated the good work you do here in the community, but I didn't know the detail of the Feed Spokane program that you're educating us on today. And you're not only educating our listeners, but to be honest, you're educating me, and that's a neat opportunity for me to hear as well.
And Ryan, for you, for your staff, and for your listeners, they can contact me directly through Feed Spokane, and I would love for you or them to come down on any Monday around 11 o'clock. It will knock your socks off when you see
this is impressive.
coalition people go in, what they do, and how they get the food, and how they check in, how they check out.
How many total volunteers do you think you're working with Feed Spokane right now?
With the coalition and their people,
Right.
hundreds.
That's impressive, especially
Yeah.
in 10 years. Your involvement has been roughly 5, but in 10-year organization, 1 decade, it takes a lot of time to get something off the ground. You know, whether you're talking about Peggy Doring came in and chatted in the studio with Valley Fest, and they're doing good work. They've been
Very.
around darn near 30 years. 10 years, the fact that you're getting Feed Spokane to where it is impressive.
And we're having fun with it too, because we know the end product is we're feeding somebody.
Right.
We actually have some donors that give us pet food, and that's something that very few people know. And just it's important for you to know that our homeless are not the people that do very well, and our seniors
Right.
will use their food budget to feed their pet.
Right. And, you know, I wouldn't have known
And
that
we help
either.
them with that.
I wouldn't have known that either, but through an opportunity, my wife brought myself and my kids down to Blessings Under the Bridge earlier this summer. And got to tell you, that's an eye-opener. And the piece that you just mentioned in terms of providing pet food, I did not realize that. And that's a big piece of the puzzle. I mean, it makes a lot of sense that these individuals do have pets, and they're not only trying to feed themselves and their families, but their pets as well.
It is, and that's not the main thing. If you look at Feed Spokane and what we do, it's not the main thrust of what we do. But to me, it's still part of what it is that's important to taking care of our community
part of
and
the
being
idea.
part of it.
Part of the idea. Well, you've been involved for 5 years. What do you see over the next 5? Whether you're involved or otherwise, but where do you see the trajectory of Feed Spokane?
I see us continuing to grow with the same model: rescue good quality food and feed the hungry. That's going to be what we do. I would like to see at some point, it's a vision, it's a dream,
Sure.
but to have our own center for distribution and a feeding site.
Okay. So the
your
respective-
church could come down and take a Tuesday night and prepare meals.
Okay.
Okay. Our church could come down on Wednesday nights and prepare a meal. So that's off. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's down the road from what we're doing. Inland Northwest Community Foundation. They're an awesome group here in Spokane. They blessed us with a very nice grant, and I know it's great to use their name. They're fine with it, but they're just such a wonderful organization that very few people are aware of.
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head earlier in the segment that education, folks understanding not only the obvious that the need is there, but these food sources, these food producers, excuse me, understanding that they can participate in this program and it could be even more efficient for them. You'd identified that whether it be in Seattle or even Spokane, that there's been discussions, realistic discussions about laws that even dictate what folks, consumers in their own homes, are throwing out. Tell us a little bit about that and the reality of that.
I believe the law passed
Locally, or was that Seattle?
in Seattle that stated they have the ability, whoever they are,
Sure.
that they can fine the people. They can, if they can find people to
Enforce.
enforce it, that they can go through your garbage, and if more than 20 or 25%
Is waste.
is actually good food,
Oh, okay.
you
okay.
can be fined. The first time they put a mark of some sort on your garbage can that's supposed to shame you, I think.
That's the warning shot.
Yeah, and then they can fine. But I've never heard anything more. It's somebody that's on that side of the mountain thought they wanted to pass a law and make a statement, but you can't enforce something
Yeah,
like that.
I understand the logic and the good intention of that regulation. You know, I would hope through, as you've described, Stephen, the education of our folks here locally, whether it be Seattle, Spokane, et cetera, because certainly this idea should be a national idea. I would hope that the education would just bring more and more people to participate with Feed Spokane. How can folks learn more about this? At feedspokane.org, tell us a little bit about how people can learn more and more about the events coming up or the organization.
Feed Spokane has a website, www.feedspokane.com.
It is .com?
Yeah, but
Okay.
we did reserve the .org, thanks to Well Dressed Walrus, and also Facebook. Like us on Facebook, and you go in and you can follow us there. You'll see volunteer opportunities. There's also a donate button.
Okay.
I'm trying to get 100 donors that donate $25 a month that they won't even feel going out of
Right.
their account. It's tax deductible for the most part, I guess, because we're a nonprofit.
Well,
That part
Stephen-
they'd have to check with, but that's one of the ways they can follow us. They can come down and volunteer.
This has been a great learning experience for me, as well as hopefully our listeners. Stephen, I appreciate you coming in here and educating us on Feed Spokane. I hope you come back and visit us again. Thank you so much.
Ryan, thanks a lot for having us.
Let's Talk Spokane is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask us a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Thanks for listening.
The stories and photos on the pages of Nostalgia magazine show glimpses of life in the inland Northwest from years gone by. From home life, school days, and the workplace, you can relive a style of life that we all loved and cherished. Call today to subscribe, 443-3678, or visit us online at nostalgiamagazine.net. Nostalgia Magazine. Ageless stories, ageless photos.
In study after study, money is often cited as one of the top conflict points in a marriage. Finances can be an emotional topic for couples, especially when money is tight. So it pays to get in the habit of discussing it on a regular basis, even if you keep separate finances. At stcumoney.org, find 6 tips for making the conversation easier.